A billionaire finds two homeless twin girls in front of his father's grave. They look at him and say, "Sorry, Grandpa, we came to see you." The man smiles in confusion. "But this isn't your grandpa." Until the girl's words leave him speechless. Autumn was painting the trees red and gold when Nathan Collins pushed open the iron gate of the cemetery. His footsteps echoed on the stone path as he walked among the tombstones, a bouquet of white lilies held firmly in his hand. It had been exactly 1 year since William Collins, a business tycoon, and his father had passed away. Nathan adjusted his dark coat against the chilly wind. At 35, he ran a financial empire and lived alone in a mansion and rarely smiled. It was William Collins's perfect legacy, solid included. As he turned into the lane of the most imposing headstones, Nathan stopped abruptly. Someone was at his father's grave. Not adults, as he had expected, but two small girls. They had their backs to him, leaning over the black marble headstone where William Edward Collins shone in gold letters. Nathan frowned. Children were not common visitors in that exclusive section of the cemetery, especially not children on their own, and these two looked particularly out of place, wearing simple, worn-out clothes, disheveled hair, with no adult around. He approached, slowly, not wanting to scare them. The smaller girl, who could not have been more than 4, was placing a handful of crushed wildflowers at the base of the headstone. The older one, maybe 6, held her sister's hand tightly. Nathan was just a few steps away from them when he clearly heard the little voice of the younger girl. "Sorry, Grandpa, we came to see you." He froze where he stood. "Grandpa." These children were calling his father their grandfather. The older girl knelt and smoothed the freshly laid earth in front of the headstone. "Mom couldn't come. She's sick." Nathan moved a few steps, closer. Dry leaves crackled under his shoes, warning the girls of his presence. They turned around quickly, their eyes wide as if they were 2 pairs of headlights. What Nathan saw almost made him recoil. The older girl had striking blue eyes, the exact same shade of blue he saw in the mirror every morning. Collins' eyes. "Hello," he said, trying to keep his voice steady despite the turmoil forming in his mind. "Are you visiting this grave?" The older girl nodded, without letting go of her sister's hand. Both watched him with a mix of curiosity and caution. "We came to see Grandpa," the older one said. Nathan felt a strange wave coursing through his body. He looked at the headstone, then at the girls, a confused smile forming on his face. "But this isn't your grandfather," he said, pointing to the headstone. "This is William Collins. He was my father." The girls did not look surprised. In fact, the younger one broke into a small smile, revealing baby teeth. "Are you Uncle Nathan?" asked the older girl, her blue eyes studying his face. Nathan felt as though he'd been punched in the stomach. "Uncle? How did these children know his name?" "How do you know who I am?" he asked, his voice weaker than he intended. "Mom has pictures of you from the newspaper," the girl answered. "She said you looked like Grandpa when he was younger." The world around Nathan started to spin. The pieces of a puzzle he didn't even know existed began to fit together. "Who is your mother?" he asked, almost dreading the answer. "Emily Carter," replied the girl. "She's in the hospital. The lady at the shelter let us come because Mom always wanted to, but she can't." The girl's words knocked the ground out from under him. Emily Carter, a name that meant nothing to him but suddenly felt like it meant everything. If William Collins was these children's grandfather, and Nathan had no siblings, at least none he knew about. "You, what are your names?" he asked, his mouth dry. "I'm Lily," said the older one, "and she's Sophie. We're Grandpa Collins's granddaughters." Nathan looked at his father's grave, then at the girls, and back at the grave again. William Collins, the man he thought he knew, apparently had another child, a son or daughter, and these children would be his nieces. "Are you staying at a shelter?" he asked, noting once again the worn clothes and neglected appearance of the girls. Lily nodded. "It's just for now, until Mom gets better." Nathan couldn't say anything else. A whirlwind of questions flooded his mind. Who was Emily Carter? How did she know his father? Why had William never mentioned another family? And if these girls really were his granddaughters, that meant Nathan had a brother or sister he'd never known. Looking at those two small, apparently neglected children, Nathan felt his entire world shake. Everything he thought he knew about his family was suddenly incomplete. And the worst part, the only one who could explain everything was now lying silently beneath that cold marble headstone. Nathan couldn't sleep that night. The image of the two girls in the cemetery wouldn't leave his mind. Lily and Sophie, William Collins's granddaughters, his supposed nieces. Seated in his office, with the lights of Manhattan shining through the panoramic window, he spun a glass of whiskey between his fingers without drinking. If these girls were truly the daughters of a sister he never knew existed, why had his father never mentioned anything? William Collins was not known for being sentimental, but hiding an entire daughter. Emily Carter, he murmured to himself. He opened his notebook and typed the name into a search engine. Thousands of results appeared, but none seemed relevant. He added William Collins to the search, nothing significant. After a few minutes staring at the screen, Nathan made a decision. He picked up the phone and dialed a number he rarely used. "Frank, it's Nathan Collins. I need an urgent favor." Frank Dawson was head of security at Collins Enterprises, a former police officer William had hired years ago. If anyone could find information on Emily Carter, it would be him. "I need you to find everything about a woman named Emily Carter. She has two small daughters, Lily and Sophie. It seems they're in some shelter in the city. And Frank, be discreet." After hanging up, Nathan kept his gaze on the city through the window. Why did those girls affect him so much? Maybe because for the first time in years, something had broken through the bubble of predictability in which he lived. The cell phone rang at 7 in the morning. Frank had done his job efficiently. "Mr. Collins, I found your Emily Carter. She's 28, works as a nurse at Mercy Hospital. She's been admitted for 3 days with pneumonia. Her daughters Lily, 6, and Sophie, 4, are temporarily at the Hope Shelter in Brooklyn." "Are you sure it's the right person?" asked Nathan, already getting dressed. "Positive. I found her birth record. Mother is Margaret Carter, deceased 5 years ago, father not listed." Nathan felt a chill down his spine. "Send me all the details and the shelter's address." 30 minutes later, Nathan was driving his own car across the Brooklyn Bridge, something he rarely did. He usually preferred using his drivers, but today he needed privacy. He followed the GPS instructions to a neighborhood of old buildings and cracked sidewalks. The Hope Shelter was in a red brick building that had seen better days. Nathan parked and took a deep breath before getting out. What would he say? How? Would he explain his presence? More importantly, what would he do if he discovered the girls really were his nieces? At reception, a middle-aged woman with graying hair looked up from a stack of papers. "May I help you?" "Good morning. My name is Nathan Collins. I'm looking for information about Lily and Sophie Carter." The woman's expression changed instantly. "Mr. Collins, the girls mentioned they met someone at the cemetery yesterday, but..." She looked him up and down. "I never imagined it would be you. The Nathan Collins." "Yes, well, they were visiting my father's grave," he explained, uneasy with the recognition. "They seemed to think he was their grandfather." The woman hesitated. "I'm Martha Wilson, the shelter's director. Why don't you come to my office so we can talk?" In the small office with files piled up and a wilted plant on the windowsill, Martha indicated a chair. "The girls arrived 3 days ago, when their mother was hospitalized. Emily is alone with no close family. The little ones had nowhere else to go." "What about their father?" asked Nathan. Martha shook her head. "There's no father in the picture. From what I understand, Emily has raised the girls alone since birth." Nathan hesitated before his next question. "Mrs. Wilson, the girls said my father, William Collins, was their grandfather. Does that mean..." That Emily would be your sister, Martha concluded, raising her eyebrows. I don't know all the details, Mr. Collins, but Emily mentioned once that her mother had a relationship with a powerful man who never acknowledged paternity. A knot formed in Nathan's throat. I'd like to see them, the girls, and I'd also like information on how to find Emily at the hospital. Martha studied him for a moment. The girls are in the playroom, I can take you there. As for Emily, she's at Mercy Hospital, room 412. But Mr. Collins, these kids have already been through so much. If you're not planning to really be involved, maybe it's better not to raise their hopes. Her words hit Nathan like a slap. I understand your concern, but I need to find out the truth. In the recreation room, about 10 children played under the supervision of a young woman. Nathan immediately recognized Lily and Sophie sitting at a small table drawing. When they saw him, both pairs of eyes went wide. Sophie ran over to him, catching Nathan by surprise. Uncle Nathan, you came to see us. The girl's spontaneity caught him off guard. Lily approached more cautiously. Did you come to take us to see Mom? She asked, hope shining in her blue eyes so much like his own. I came to see how you're doing, Nathan said, crouching down to their level. And yes, I also want to know how your mom is. After 20 minutes talking with the girls, Nathan left the shelter with the hospital's address and a strange feeling in his chest. The girls were smart and sweet, despite their circumstances, and the physical resemblance, especially with Lily, was impossible to ignore. Mercy Hospital was a grey, impersonal structure. Nathan passed reception, explained who he was visiting, and headed up to the 4th floor. His heart pounded as he stopped in front of room 412. What would he say to this woman who might be his sister? He knocked lightly and entered. The room was simple, with 2 beds separated by a curtain. In the bed near the window, a young woman sat flipping through a magazine. When she saw him, her eyes, the same blue as Lily's, widened in shock. Hello, Nathan said, stopping at the doorway. Are you Emily Carter? She closed the magazine slowly, not looking away. Yes, and you must be Nathan Collins. There was a tension in her voice that surprised him. It wasn't fear, but something else, a mix of resentment and caution. Your daughters met me yesterday at the cemetery, he explained, moving closer to the bed. They were visiting my father's grave. Emily let out a short sigh. They shouldn't have gone there alone. Martha promised she'd keep them at the shelter. They're okay, Nathan assured her. I just saw them. A tense silence filled the room. Nathan gathered the courage to ask the question that had been spinning in his mind. Emily, your daughters called my father their grandfather. They said you have pictures of me. Why? Emily stared at him for a long moment before responding. Her face was pale, with dark circles under her eyes, but there was a steadfastness in her expression. Because William Collins was my father too, which makes you my half-brother. Even though he already suspected, hearing it confirmed made Nathan lean against the wall for support. How? When? My mother, Margaret, worked as an executive assistant at Collins Enterprises in 1995, Emily explained, her voice now flat, as if telling a story she'd rehearsed many times. She was 24. Your father was 50 and already married to your mother. They had an affair for almost a year. Nathan closed his eyes for a moment. The timeline matched. He had been only 5 in 1995. When my mother got pregnant, Emily continued, your father denied the baby was his. He offered her money to take care of the problem. When she refused, he fired her and paid a sum so she would disappear. He made her sign documents promising never to contact him or make any paternity claim. Nathan felt his stomach churn. That sounded exactly like something William Collins would do. How did you find out he was your father then? My mother never hid it from me. She kept newspaper clippings and photos of him at events. She always told me who my father was, even if he wanted nothing to do with me. Emily gave a sad smile. She wasn't bitter, you know. She said that despite everything, he'd given her me, and that was what mattered. Nathan pulled up a chair and sat down. Why did you never look for him? Or me? Emily let out a dry laugh. To say what? Hi, I'm your illegitimate daughter, the one you paid to keep hidden. Besides, he made my mother promise, and she kept her word. After she died, I thought about trying. But then I found out I was pregnant with Lily. Priorities change. What about the girl's father? Emily's face hardened. He's not in the picture. Never was. Nathan absorbed everything in silence. His father, the great William Collins, had hidden a daughter for decades. Paid for a woman's silence and then abandoned her while she was pregnant. When I found out William had died, Emily continued, I considered going to the funeral, but it felt wrong. He never wanted me in life. Why would he want me in death? But I promised the girls that someday I would take them to see their grandfather's grave. I just never imagined it would happen this way. Nathan looked at this woman he had just met, who carried the same blood as he did. A half-sister. His father had deliberately hidden. Emily, I had no idea. If I'd known, what would you have done? She asked, her tone now challenging. Would you have sought me out? I highly doubt it. You Collins are all the same. You only care about the empire, about appearances. That's not fair, Nathan protested. I never knew about you until yesterday. And now that you know, what do you want? Emily adjusted herself on the bed, eyeing him with distrust. Why are you here, Nathan? Guilt? Curiosity? Or are you worried I'll go to the press? With the sordid tale of the great William Collins, I want to help, he replied, surprised by his own sincerity. Your daughters, my nieces, are in a shelter. You're sick. We're family. Emily shook her head slowly. No, Nathan. You share the same blood as me, but that doesn't make us family. Family are the people who are there for each other, who support each other. I don't need your late charity. It's not charity, he insisted. It's the least I can do. Why? To ease your conscience, or to clean up your father's memory. The bitterness in her words stung. Nathan stood up, shocked by Emily's defensive hostility. He had imagined many reactions, but not this vehement resistance. Look, I know we don't know each other, and I understand your distrust, but your daughters are my nieces. You are my sister, and I just discovered my father kept an entire part of my family hidden from me all my life. I'm trying to process this as much as you are. Emily's gaze softened slightly. For a moment, Nathan saw vulnerability in her eyes. I don't need you to save us, Nathan. We've been doing fine so far. In a shelter? With you in the hospital? Nathan regretted the words as soon as they came out. Emily's face hardened again. Don't judge me. I've always done the best I could. One rough patch doesn't define who I am or how I raise my daughters. Nathan took a deep breath. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to judge. Just let me help, Emily. Please, we can take it slow. You need to recover, and the girls need somewhere better than a temporary shelter. Emily studied him for a long moment. Why do you care so much? You just met us. Because... Nathan hesitated, looking for the right words. Because you're the only family I have left, and maybe it's time to fix my father's mistakes, even though he's not here to do it himself. A heavy silence filled the room. Finally, Emily spoke, her voice calmer. Let's get one thing straight, Nathan. Accepting your help doesn't mean I trust you, and it doesn't mean you suddenly have the right to make decisions about our lives, if I even decide to accept it. Nathan nodded slowly. I understand. It's your choice, but I want you to know I'm here now, and I won't disappear. Emily did not reply, but there was something different in her gaze. It wasn't acceptance, not yet, but maybe it was the first step towards something neither of them could define. Nathan spun a pen between his fingers as he stared at his computer screen without really seeing it. 3 days had passed since his meeting with Emily at the hospital, and he couldn't stop thinking about her and the girls. The thought that he had a family he never knew he had haunted him like a shadow. The intercom on his desk rang, interrupting his thoughts. Mr. Collins, Mr. Davidson from the board, is here for the 10 a.m. meeting. Send him in, Claire. Nathan replied, straightening his tie and trying to push Emily out of his mind. Robert Davidson, Collins Enterprises legal director for over 20 years, entered the office with his usual rigid posture. At 60, he was one of the few executives who had worked directly with William Collins and stayed on after his death. "Nathan," he greeted with a formal nod, "I received your email about the Asia contracts, but I confess I'm more curious about the other matter you mentioned." Nathan motioned to the chair in front of him. "Thanks for coming, Robert. Yes, I have a delicate issue to discuss." Davidson placed his briefcase on the table. "Does it have to do with you investigating a woman named Emily Carter?" Nathan froze. "How do you know that?" "Frank Dawson spoke to me yesterday. He was worried you might be getting scammed by some con artist." Davidson leaned forward. "Nathan, who is this woman?" For a moment, Nathan considered lying, but something in him refused. "She's my father's daughter, my half-sister." Davidson's face visibly paled. "That's impossible." "It's not. William had an affair with her mother in 1995. He paid for her to disappear when she got pregnant." Nathan watched the lawyer's reaction carefully. "But you already knew that, didn't you, Robert?" Davidson adjusted his glasses, clearly uncomfortable. "Your father consulted me about some confidentiality agreements back then, but he never confirmed he had a daughter." "Well, he did. And now she has 2 daughters, my nieces." Nathan stood and walked to the window. "They're living in a shelter, Robert. Emily is sick, penniless, while I live in this—" He gestured around the luxurious office. "Corporate palace." "Nathan," Davidson's voice took on a cautious tone, "I understand your shock, but you must consider the implications. If this woman really is William's daughter, she might be entitled to a significant share of the inheritance. The shareholders would be furious, not to mention the scandal for the company's image." "I'm aware," Nathan replied, more sharply than he intended. "Furthermore," Davidson continued, "how can you be sure she is who she claims to be? Have you considered a DNA test? There are many opportunists out there." Nathan turned to face him. "Have you seen her daughters? Especially Lily, the older one. She has the same eyes as me, as my father." "Coincidences happen," argued Davidson. "Nathan, you were raised to lead this company. You're William's only legitimate heir. Don't throw it all away because of a possible mistake or worse, an elaborate fraud." His words hit Nathan like a punch. It was exactly the kind of thing his father would say. Protect the empire above all. Public image above the truth. "I'm going to help her," declared Nathan, surprising even himself with the firmness in his voice. "One way or another." Davidson sighed. "If you're determined, at least be cautious. I suggest a confidentiality agreement before any financial assistance, and definitely a DNA test." After Davidson left, Nathan remained by the window, watching the bustle of Manhattan below. People in a hurry, each with their own story, their own family secrets. How many other William Collinses were out there, powerful men denying their responsibilities, hiding entire parts of their lives? His phone buzzed. A message from the hospital. Emily would be discharged that afternoon. Without a second thought, Nathan grabbed his coat and car keys. The Hope shelter looked even more depressing under the weak, late afternoon light. Nathan parked in front of the brick building and took a deep breath before stepping out. He had spent the whole day thinking about what he would say to Emily, how he could persuade her to accept his help. Martha Wilson greeted him with a tired smile. "Mr. Collins, what a surprise. Emily just got back from the hospital. She's in room 14 with the girls." "How is she?" Nathan asked. "Better, but exhausted. She insisted on leaving the hospital today, even though the doctors recommended more time. She's stubborn, worried about the bills, about the girls." Nathan nodded, feeling a mix of admiration and frustration. "May I see her?" Martha led him through the narrow hallways to a door at the end of the corridor. She knocked lightly and opened it. "Emily, you have a visitor." The room was small, with 2 single beds and a bunk bed. Lily and Sophie were sitting on the floor playing with worn dolls, while Emily arranged some clothes in a dresser. When she saw Nathan, her face showed surprise, then suspicion. Girls, Martha said, why don't you help me prepare some snacks for everyone? Sophie jumped up excited, but Lily looked at her mother hesitant. It's okay, sweetheart, Emily assured. Go with Mrs. Wilson. After the children left, a heavy silence filled the room. Emily sat on the edge of the bed, visibly tired. Didn't expect to see you again so soon, she said. I heard you were discharged from the hospital today, Nathan replied, standing near the door. How are you feeling? Better, I can't afford to stay sick for long. She gestured around the room. As you can see, our plan B isn't exactly 5-star. Nathan surveyed the cramped space, the peeling walls, the window that barely closed. Guilt washed over him again. Emily, I want to help. I can find you an apartment, pay your medical bills, make sure the girls have everything they need. Emily crossed her arms. And in return? The question caught him off guard. In return, I don't want anything. We're family. Family, she repeated with a sad smile. You've known me for less than a week, Nathan. We're not family just because we share half our DNA. Then let me get to know you, he insisted. Let me be part of the girls' lives. They're my nieces. Emily studied his face for a long moment. Why is this so important to you? Is it guilt? Or just a charity project to make yourself feel better about being the only child of the great William Collins? Her words hurt, but Nathan recognized the self-defense behind them. It's not that at all. Maybe it's actually selfish. I've spent my entire life alone, Emily. My mother left when I was 10. My father was, well, you know how he was. I grew up surrounded by people who wanted things from me, not with me. Something in Emily's expression softened. And you think money will fix it all? Will heal the wounds my mother carried for years? Give my daughters a grandfather who never wanted to know them? No, Nathan admitted. I know my fortune. Can't erase what my father did, or undo the suffering you went through. But it can give you a better future. Emily looked down at her hands, her determination still visible in her weary face. I can take care of my daughters on my own. I always have. I don't doubt that, Nathan responded. But no one should have to do everything alone. Not you, not me. A silence fell between them, less tense than before. Nathan realized he couldn't force Emily to accept his help. She had spent her entire life being strong, surviving without the Collins name. Her resistance wasn't mere stubbornness, it was self-preservation. Think about it, he finally said. Not for you, but for Lily and Sophie. They deserve more than this place, more than worrying about medical bills and rent. Emily didn't answer right away. When she did, her voice was quieter. I'll think about it, but I'm not promising anything. For Nathan, that was enough. For now. He set a business card on the dresser. My personal number. Call me when you decide or if you need anything. Leaving the shelter, Nathan felt a strange mix of emotions. Part of him feared Emily would never call, that she would reject his help outright. Another part feared the opposite, that she would accept, and he wouldn't know how to be the brother she needed. As he drove back to Manhattan, the skyscrapers rising on the horizon like sentinels of his privilege, Nathan knew that, no matter what Emily decided, his life would never be the same. William Collins's secrets had changed everything, and now he had to decide what kind of man he would be, a copy of his father or someone entirely different. Nathan couldn't sleep. For the third night in a row, he found himself on the terrace of his apartment, gazing at the illuminated city below. His encounter with Emily at the hospital had shaken him more than he expected. A sister, nieces, a family he never knew existed. He took a sip of his whiskey, letting the amber liquid burn his throat. Part of him wanted to help Emily and the girls immediately, get them out of the shelter, offer them a comfortable home, pay the medical bills, ensure the girls got a good education. After all, he had enough money for several lifetimes. But another part hesitated. What if he was acting too hastily? What if Emily really didn't want his help? What if he got too involved and ended up disappointed? Or worse, what if he disappointed? The girls? His phone rang, interrupting his thoughts. It was Frank Dawson. Mr. Collins, I have the information you requested about the Hope Shelter. Frank's deep voice sounded tired even over the phone. It's a decent place, mostly funded by private donations. They take in families in temporary crisis for a maximum of 3 weeks. 3 weeks. Nathan frowned. Then what? Then, the families have to find somewhere else. Emily Carter and the girls have been there for 5 days. She's been in the hospital for 3 of those. Nathan thanked him and hung up. 3 weeks wasn't much time. Emily would be weak after pneumonia, possibly unable to work for a while. Where would they go next? He looked at the city again, thinking of Emily's defensive stare. She didn't want his charity. She'd made that clear. But what if there was another way? One that respected her pride but still offered real help? Next morning, Nathan drove to the Hope Shelter. Martha Wilson greeted him with a tired but genuine smile. "Mr. Collins, what a pleasant surprise. Are you here to see the girls?" "Actually, I'd like to speak with you first," he replied, following her into her small office. "I want to help, but in a way Emily can accept." Martha indicated a chair. "She's a proud woman, and she has good reasons to distrust the Collins family." "I know," Nathan admitted. "That's why I need your guidance. What does the shelter need most right now? And what will Emily and the girls need when they leave?" Martha's eyes lit up. "Well, as for the shelter, we always need basic supplies. Non-perishable food, hygiene products, bedding. Our heating system is also only working at half capacity." Over the next hour, Nathan listened carefully to the shelter's needs and the specific concerns about Emily's situation. Martha explained that Emily would need time to fully recover from pneumonia, that the girls needed stability, and that finding a new, affordable apartment would be the biggest immediate challenge. "Does she have any savings?" Nathan asked. Martha sighed. "Almost nothing. Nurses don't earn much, and being a single mother of 2, she let the sentence trail off. When Nathan left Martha's office, he had a plan. It wouldn't be easy, and Emily would probably still resist, but it was a start. His first step was discreet, a substantial donation to the Hope Shelter, specifically earmarked for facility, improvements and supplies. When Martha tried to thank him profusely, he asked her not to mention the donation amount to anyone, especially Emily. The second step was more challenging. Nathan visited the hospital where Emily worked and met with the head of nursing, partially explaining the situation, that Emily was his newly discovered sister, that she was going through difficulties, and that he wanted to help without undermining her independence. "She's an excellent nurse," the supervisor stated, "but our department is facing budget cuts. We can't offer paid medical leave for more than 2 weeks." After a long conversation, they reached an agreement. The hospital would find funds to extend Emily's paid medical leave for a month, allowing her to fully recover. Nathan, of course, would be the real source of those funds, but Emily need not know that. 3 days later, Nathan finally visited Lily and Sophie at the shelter. The girls greeted him enthusiastically, especially Sophie, who ran into his arms as if she had known him for years, not weeks. "Did you bring presents?" she announced, pointing to a little pink backpack by the bed. "Sophie," Lily admonished her gently, "we don't ask for presents like that." Nathan laughed. "I didn't bring any presents today. But how about this? After we visit your mum at the hospital, we can stop for ice cream." The girls' eyes lit up, and even Lily couldn't hide her smile. At the hospital, they found Emily sitting up in bed, flipping through a magazine. She looked less pale than on his last visit, but still visibly weak. Her expression upon seeing Nathan was a mix of surprise and suspicion. "I thought you'd given up," she said after the girls left with a nurse to get juice. "Why would you think that?" asked Nathan, sitting in the chair beside the bed. "It's been almost a week. I figured maybe you realized we're too complicated for your lifestyle." Nathan smiled slightly. "Do you always assume the worst about people?" "Not about people. About the Collins," she responded. She studied his face. "So why are you here, Nathan? Really?" "Because I want to get to know my sister," he answered simply, "and because I want my nieces to know they have an uncle who cares about them." Emily looked away, a sign that his words had touched her. And how long will this interest last? A month, a year, until something more important comes along? I can't predict the future, Emily. All I can promise is that I'm here now, and I want to be here tomorrow, too. When the girls returned, conversation shifted to lighter subjects. Nathan stayed almost 2 hours, listening to Sophie describe a drawing she had made at the shelter, and Lily explaining with surprising detail the book she was reading. He observed how Emily interacted with her daughters, patient, loving, firm when needed, and felt a growing admiration for this woman who, despite all difficulties, had raised 2 such special kids. As promised, he took the girls for ice cream afterward. While he watched them select their flavors with childish excitement, he felt a strange sense of belonging he had never experienced before. Over the next 2 weeks, Nathan established a routine. He visited the girls at the shelter almost daily, often bringing small gifts. Nothing ostentatious, just books, art supplies for Lily, a small teddy bear for Sophie. He took them to visit Emily at the hospital, and occasionally on brief outings, the park, the zoo, once the movies. Martha watched him with a knowing smile. "They're getting attached to you," she remarked one afternoon, while the girls played. "In the shelter's tiny courtyard. I'm getting attached to them too," Nathan admitted, surprising himself with the honesty of that statement. "What about Emily? Is she starting to trust you?" Nathan sighed. "It's complicated. Sometimes it seems like she does. Other times I feel like she's just tolerating my presence for the girl's sake." "Give her time," Martha advised. "Emily carries deep wounds." When Emily was finally discharged from the hospital, Nathan was there to pick her up. She seemed surprised to see him, but didn't protest when he took her small bag. "The girls are excited to see you," he said as they walked down the corridor. "Lily decorated your side of the room at the shelter with drawings so you'd feel welcome." A shadow passed over Emily's face. "I hate that they're stuck in that place." "It's temporary," Nathan reminded her gently. "What then?" "I don't have the money for a new apartment deposit. I barely have enough for rent." Nathan hesitated. This was the moment he'd been waiting for, but he needed to be careful. "About that," he began cautiously. "Maybe we could talk when we get back to the shelter." Emily gave him a wary look but nodded. At the shelter, after an emotional reunion with her daughters, Emily finally sat down with Nathan in a quiet corner of the common room. "So what did you want to talk about?" she asked directly. Nathan took a deep breath. "I found a few apartments for rent that might interest you. Safe neighborhoods near decent schools, reasonably priced." Emily raised an eyebrow. "And how exactly do I pay for the deposit? Or the rent, considering I'll still be on medical leave for a while?" "As for the deposit," Nathan chose his words carefully, "I'd like to help. As an advance, not a gift. You can pay me back whenever you can, no rush." "And why would you do that?" "Because we're family," he said simply, "and families help each other." Emily studied him for a long time, as if trying to decipher his true intentions. "What if I never manage to pay you back?" "Then don't, that's not the point." To his surprise, Emily didn't reject the idea outright. "I'll think about it," she said at last. That was more than Nathan expected. A small step, but a significant one. In the following days, Emily slowly began to warm to the possibility of accepting Nathan's help. Together, they visited some of the apartments he had found. They were modest places, nothing luxurious, but clean, safe, and definitely better than the shelter. Emily chose the simplest, most affordable one, a two-bedroom apartment in an older but well-maintained building, with a small green area where the girls could play. When Nathan handed over the check for the deposit and first month's rent, Emily seemed to struggle inwardly. "This doesn't mean I agree with everything," she said, finally accepting the envelope. "I will pay it back." "I know," Nathan replied, resisting the urge to say it wasn't necessary. During the move, which mainly consisted of taking the few bags and boxes they owned, Nathan realized how little they really had. The apartment, though small, felt empty. "We need furniture," he commented while Emily organized some clothes in a built-in closet. "I'll buy it piece by piece," she replied. Beds are the most important right now. Everything else can wait. Nathan wanted to argue, to offer to furnish the entire apartment, but he knew that would be too much. Instead, he suggested, "What if I bring some basic items? A table, chairs, maybe a couch. I have some extra furniture in storage." That wasn't entirely true, of course, but it sounded better than offering to buy everything new. Emily hesitated, but the thought of her daughters sitting on the floor to eat made her relent. "Just the basics," she emphasized. The next day, Nathan arrived with a delivery truck carrying used furniture, recently purchased but intentionally made to look second-hand.